Hey guys, Coach Tim here with another episode of Managing the Madness. I'm here with my very good friend, my neighbor, the McNeil High School swim coach, Johnny Foss. Johnny, what's going on, buddy?
Hey there.
Hey man,
Thanks
how you
for
doing?
having me.
Yeah, dude, how you doing?
Good.
Very good, very good.
Winter time. So it's good.
It's training time.
Yeah. I had some people don't look forward to it. I love it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So let's kind of dive in at the beginning and the start. Give me a little bit of background on you growing up. Did you grow up here in Austin? I'm pretty sure you did, if I'm not mistaken.
I was a Westlake boy. Grew up in the Westlake area. Playing a lot of sports.
Okay.
I'm a swim coach now, but
Yep.
I didn't try. Well, really, the neighborhood pool was my babysitter growing up.
Okay,
So my parents
okay.
would drop me off. That's why I have the freckles I do. I would
Yeah.
spend 8 hours at a pool,
Wow.
and then one of the swim coaches asked if I wanted to do the summer league, and so I started doing summer league swimming. But I
Okay.
was playing soccer the rest of the year. But I was actually just a sports junkie. I would play tennis, basketball, football. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be inside. I wanted to be out playing sports.
That's crazy.
So-
That's where the freckles come from.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like
I'm
literally,
going
it's
to pay
wild.
for it.
Sure.
Haven't had a sunburn in 20 years, but I had way too many my first 15. It was bad.
That's wild, man. I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy. Where'd you go to school?
So Westlake High School for that, and then I went to the University of Texas. I was not a good enough athlete to be competing at the University of Texas in anything.
Okay.
Even though I did love sports. I started out at the University of Texas. It was actually pre-med.
No way.
I was pre-med when I first started.
No way.
I was working at a law firm, and one of my buddies I was working with was also a sports junkie.
Yeah.
And he was older than me. He already had his degree and he's working at the law firm, and he hated, our boss was horrible. And he hated his job, and he basically told me to don't end up like him.
Yeah.
Make sure I find something that I would actually love doing for the rest of my life. And literally the next day I went and changed my major.
That's crazy.
And decided to head toward teaching.
That's wild. I was going to ask you how you got to teaching. And what did your parents do? What were they working at?
My dad was CPA.
Okay.
Businessman in the Westlake area. My mother was a hardworking nurse.
Yeah.
So I got my mother's work ethic, my father's confidence.
Okay.
He was over the top kind of confident,
Yeah.
not always in a great way, but they supported what I wanted to do, and so
Yeah.
the change, I don't even remember asking them.
You just did it, yeah.
I just said, I'm gonna go this different route. I think I'll have fun every day doing it.
Yeah. That's wild, man. What were you doing at the law firm? What was your job?
I was. I know we only. I don't know how much time
we got
have, but
time.
I got
We got
so
all kind of time.
It's weird. My wife doesn't like this, but I always call myself the luckiest person I know.
Yeah.
It wasn't until a year ago that I actually applied for my first job. Never applied for a job. I was actually working at an auto shop. I was working at an auto shop.
Okay.
Which was one of my father's friends said, "Hey,
Sure.
can you come
Can you get my son?
sweep?" I don't even know if my dad asked. The guy just said, "Hey, I need somebody to come sweep. I know you're going to UT." And it was like right downtown.
Yeah.
And I was at an auto shop, and they said, "Hey," they threw me these keys and said, "Take this car back to this lawyer." And so I'm driving this truck back to a lawyer, and he's got to come drop me off back at the auto shop. And on the way, he goes, "So what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going to UT, I'm pre-med." And he goes, "What are you doing in an auto shop? Why don't you come work here?" Okay. And then so I just became a legal assistant, an
Yeah,
administrative
sure.
assistant.
Paralegal or something like
I was just fast on a keyboard. He basically said, "Come work one weekend, we're doing a mailer."
that. Yeah.
And I was folding 1,000 things,
Yeah.
and then he said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And I said, "Okay." It's weird. I was going to UT. I was in the education program at UT called UTeach, and some teacher at McNeil High School screwed up with a student, and they called over and says, "Do you have somebody who can come work immediately?"
Stop.
And they sent me over to McNeil, and I was like, "All right, I'll do this."
No way.
I never applied for anything.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, I had to interview, but I didn't apply.
But you never
to
had
these
to like
jobs.
actually want the job to get
Somebody
the job.
I've just been.
Oh my
and
God.
I could never explain it. I'm just lucky.
That's
I'm very,
wild.
very lucky.
And how long have you been at McNeil? 20,
So
20
I'm
years?
working on year 25. I just finished
Wow.
my 24th year. I started that for that teacher January of 2000.
Holy crap.
So
Oh my God.
yeah,
That's wild, man.
life is
Life
strange.
is-
Just wait, I got a couple more that how I even ended up doing what I'm doing is,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
different.
What was the job? Was the teaching job math? Was it a math
It was
job?
just teaching math. It wasn't
Okay,
coaching.
okay.
They just needed a math teacher.
Okay.
And a really good friend of I've been coaching soccer since '94
Okay.
in the club ranks.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Justin Schrock, started working a semester after I got there,
Okay.
but he became a soccer coach, and
Yep.
his assistant was some football guy that
Yeah.
knew nothing about soccer.
Sure.
And we became fast friends, and he says, I don't want this football guy. You come work with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we went and asked the administration, can I take that assistant soccer spot? And they said, all right.
Yeah.
And so I started coaching soccer at McNeil in that fall of 2000. And it wasn't until 2002 that the swim coach I was good friends with,
Yeah.
and I had started coaching in the summers only
Yeah.
because my friend from the law firm, his wife was a girl named Holly Bowman, which is actually Eddie Reese's daughter.
Oh my God.
So Eddie Reese, if you guys don't know Eddie Reese
Yeah.
is, he's the goat of all goats,
Yeah.
The UT swim coach.
Yeah.
And she just asked me to come coach swimming one summer
Oh
with
my
she and
gosh. Like a summer league, like a summer league.
yeah, a summer league, because
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually training triathlons with her husband, and so we would all go swim together.
Sure.
Holly, Dave, and I
Sure.
would all go swim, and you're a great swimmer. I was like, well, I used to swim all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even in college, I started competing in masters again because I was burnt out of soccer. And
Yeah.
she said, come coach. I was like, all right. Again, I
Again,
didn't
never
apply
asked,
for anything. I just
never asked for a
never
job.
asked for any of that. And all right, well, I'll come try that. And so the swim coach at McNeil was leaving, and he says, and he had just rescued the program. The program was in shambles.
Yeah.
They owed a bunch of money. He rescued this program after 2 years of work, and he was going to leave because I don't want to leave this program in bad hands. Take
Sure.
over the swim program.
Sure.
And I said,
Okay.
okay, I'll take over the swim program. And
Oh my God.
I never in a million years would have thought that I was going to be in charge of a high school
That's
6A
so
swim program.
wild.
But I'm now in my 22nd year. Yes. It
That's
somehow
incredible.
gets better each year. I don't know. It's
That's
weird.
incredible, man. Well, talk me through some of your, I don't know, some of your highlights from being a teacher. You know, like and how has it evolved? Because that's a long, I'm talking about 25 years. My wife has taught for, what, 23 or 4 as well. Like she's, you guys are, I think you're same age. Like she's done dance, she's done all kinds of stuff. Talk me through being a math teacher for 25 years. Give me some some overarching views of it ultimately, or some highlights, some lowlights. Yeah.
Well, and I just was in an interview for another job the other day when I actually applied for.
Okay. Okay.
And they had asked me, can you tell me something, a highlight? And I had thought about that question. I kind of thought there's some typical questions.
Yeah, something to come like that. Yeah.
And my response, it wasn't necessarily that I've had like a single home run.
Yeah.
But teaching is one of those you can have great moments every day. And so I had, and it just so happened I had that a cool moment that day when I was being interviewed,
Mm-hmm.
because I had this girl who's showing up once every 3 days. You could tell she wants to put her head down. She doesn't want to do it. And I pull her aside and said, so what's going on? And she says, well, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. And I said, well, what do you want to do in your later in life? And she had talked about wanting to be a hairdresser. We just talked real quick about, if you want to be a hairdresser, that's fine. This is what you're going to make. being a hairdresser, but if you own the salon,
Yeah.
you can make way more money, just like you versus
Absolutely.
one
Absolutely.
of your employees.
Absolutely.
The ability
Yeah.
to make money is a multiplier.
Exponential, yeah.
And I said, but you're gonna need to get an education. You're gonna need to know a little bit of math, business. You're gonna probably want to at least go get an associate's degree,
Sure.
let alone a 4-year business degree. And all of that comes down to, why don't you show up every day? Because
Yeah.
you don't have to like this class.
No.
But I need you to pass it. You have to get a high school
Yeah,
diploma,
absolutely.
and part of that's just about showing up. And she
Yeah.
kind of looked at me. She says, "I'll be here tomorrow."
That's awesome.
Like right there, that's
awesome.
for me. Teacher, that's a home run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting one kid, and I've been asked to teach advanced classes, and I don't think that's where my skill set is. My skill set is with the kid, because I can kind of see what for me, I feel a little bit closer connection to that kid who's really doesn't. I really had very little connection in my education years. Once I was graduating, I don't ever want to come back. I'm not into educating myself. I'd rather get out there and be in the business, so I can kind of see where some of these kids are. Let's get you to the finish line so you can go do
what
it is that you want to do.
Absolutely.
And so you get to have, I think, in teaching, those kind of great moments. If you work really hard, you can have them almost every day.
A lot, yeah.
Even though there can be very, very tough days, but there's a lot of chances for those little home runs.
That's very cool. What about, I don't know, maybe how you've seen the classroom change? You know what I mean? Like from a standpoint of 20 some odd years and you know, quarter of a quote unquote lifetime of time. You know, like what's some big changes that you've seen from either from parents or from students or from administration, or you know how things are put to you guys to do?
Yeah, and we could talk a long time about that. I think, at my school, there's been drastic changes in just simple demographics. So when I showed up there, McNeil was quite the affluent school. We had 7% of our population was in the low socioeconomic, and now I think we're at 40%.
Wow. So,
and it's been very, very interesting. At McNeil, we've had a very, very rigorous curriculum when I first got there.
Gotcha.
And you would think, all right, as that
almost
demographic changes,
status.
you know, it was weird. We didn't change any of the rigor. We kept it, and so in my class, I still assign some very difficult work, and I think we have found that since we did not change, and students realized if I'm not going to meet that, I'm going to fail. And I've been very lucky. The kids that have not passed my course, I haven't had administration saying, "Hey, you need to pass more kids."
Yeah.
And there are schools that will say you can't fail a certain percentage of your, and I've never had that. And the kids so I've been really lucky, and that's maybe why I've stuck around as long as I have. And the kids eventually decide, okay, well, this is what I gotta do to move on.
Yeah.
And that's the best part.
Yeah.
In teaching and education, you don't have to be born with a family that has everything.
Sure.
You have to, the things, and that's really the connection is with swimming, is if you want it bad enough, you can go as far as you want to go.
Yeah.
And you just have to set that standard. Remind kids that, hey, if we don't get where you want to get, it's not because you're a bad kid. There's more work to be done.
There's more to do. There's always going to be more to do.
Like, and so if you're willing to put in the work,
yeah,
I'm only going to give you stuff that you can do. Now, whether we do it at that moment, that's
That's how. I mean, that's how I talk to our kids in here, the athletes we have in here, about that. Like, we just recycle consistently, like through phases in this place. There's always going to be more to do. We're never truly done here. There might be times when we take breaks or whatnot, but like we're always going to keep working through stuff. We're never going to stop this. This isn't end, in my opinion. You know, it just becomes the next phase. next thing ultimately. That's fair.
Yeah.
How did the first year of swim go? How were the first years of swim with the swim program? You get asked to do it. You don't have to apply for it, and you get it. You know, how does it start?
Yeah, I think we all look back to where we first started, and I think we can all say, man, I was pretty dumb back then.
Absolutely.
I was
absolutely.
And I did a decent job of trying to, and I think I believed that I didn't know as much as most swim coaches, just because I never competed in high school.
Yeah.
I was more of a soccer player, so I felt like I was always behind, and so I wanted to research. I wanted to watch websites. I wanted to go to Eddie Reese's practices. I was lucky enough. There was a site called flowswimming.org, and they were posting videos all the time of sets and practices, and they were going to college practice, and I just watched nonstop.
Wow.
And I was stealing stuff. But when I first started, I was good at working with kids. That's the only thing I really had going for me. I had a lot of kids that maybe pushed back because seriously, maybe they knew more about swimming than I did.
Absolutely.
And that's a tough battle when you're trying to work and help a kid, but they're looking at you going, hey, this is stupid what we're doing right now, and
here's why.
And the problem is, you sit there and go, crap, he was right. That was
the 1 out of 30 knew, like, this was this wasn't exactly.
You get lucky, and so part of the good and the bad is I had talented athletes. Yeah. And so somebody who maybe was really trying to catch up to where maybe what they deserved, I was just I was a good bus driver and I could schedule. And you could schedule meets and
and you were responsible. Yeah.
There's a lot of very successful kids out there that didn't even have great coaches.
That's exactly right. Like with some of the kids we've had in here before, it was just, I'm just managing this person. I'm not doing anything extraordinary. I'm just providing them a safe place to be, to train, and my job is to make sure you don't get hurt.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, you can do everything else. Like, you're fine. Like, you trust me enough to come in here. That's fantastic. I'm not going to rewrite anything for you. Crazy. I'm just a safe place. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because that's a similar story with what I had. The idea of, like, not knowing what you don't know realistically. I would tell this to the kids who from UTU come up and visit with us and, like, want to see what we do. And I had one of them one time ask me, when you were my age or when you got started, what's one thing you wish you had done differently? And I told him, I don't think there's anything I wish I would have done differently, because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. There wasn't a million, social media pages or sites out there telling you what you should be doing when we started in 20-some-odd years ago, 15, 20 years ago. There wasn't anything like that necessarily. And if it wasn't as well organized as it is now. Yeah. So I don't know,
Yeah, the only thing I would do differently is, could I know what I know now?
Yeah, exactly.
If I could start over and know what I know now, man.
Yeah.
That certainly things would have went a little bit differently. I don't know if my kids would have been more successful, but maybe the interaction just would have been little better, a little bit more positive, maybe. But I was a pretty positive person, and I wanted kids to know that I was having fun with what I was doing. Yeah. If they saw me having fun, hopefully they're having fun, and having coached. I mean, soccer and swimming are so drastically different.
Examples. I agree, because I've worked with those two sports primarily too. But, like, give me some examples of why you think that, because I think that. I'd like to hear what you're saying.
And that's, again, it could be an hour-long conversation, but I think Eddie said it best when he said, no athlete ever chooses swimming. Yeah. Swimming will kill you. Yeah. Swimming chooses the athlete. Swimming gives you, because it takes so much dedication, constant pushing to your limits. Yeah. You could have a life of soccer and there are a lot of days where you're not pushed to your limits in soccer. There's an art form to it. You require the person next to you to have a connection. There's a lot of interpersonal interactions.
Correct.
And
small group scenario, big group. Yeah.
You could be great, but if the 8 people you're playing with are horrible, you're not gonna have a great soccer. Swimming is an all offense, no defense.
Yeah.
If I'm outstanding, no one can stop me.
Correct. Yeah.
And I could have the 13 worst teammates that barely know how to swim, and I'm still generally going to be able to go and have my success.
Yep.
They do call it an individual sport, but most swimmers would laugh at that just because we can't do what we need to do in swimming without a lot of help.
Sure.
You need so much mental support, and things are going to, when you get close to that limit, you need your teammates around, saying, "Hey, let's go one more. Let's go one more." And you want to sit there and go, "I can't do one more." Yes, you can. We're going to do one more. Yeah. And so you have to have those teammates there, or else we're really not going to find our true limits. If you make it to 6A high school or big time swimming, everybody else has been weeded out. There's a lot of great athletes that have tried swimming. Even when I did not do well with the training in swimming, which is maybe why I ended up more in soccer, because man, I remember.
I mean, as a pseudo former, still kind of training triathlete, that's a tip of the iceberg for what you guys do, and it's hard to maintain that even when I'm choosing it myself to go and do it.
Yes.
Right. No one's asking me to do it. It's still really, really freaking hard.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I do like the Eddie Reese quote though. That's a fantastic quote.
Yeah, nobody in their right mind.
No, exactly. As many of them as I've worked with over the years and through the years, they all had other sports at like 13, 12, 11 they were playing, and then it just eventually they just dropped them. They just dropped out and stayed with swimming. And it was like, and they didn't choose. It almost seemed like they didn't choose it.
Yeah, we just had Brendan Hansen talking to our team Wednesday, and one of the kids asked a question, says, "When did you stop loving swimming?" And he said, "First off, there were so many times I hated the sport. The sport just can beat you down, but then you have those moments where you race and everything goes right and you win, and it's just those moments can bridge the gap between all of that pain and suffering. There's so many times that I was driving away from a practice and I think I'm done. I'm not going back. And then the very next day, not much different happens, but you're in your car and you're blaring the radio and you can't stop singing, and it's just,
that's crazy.
It's it can be a big roller coaster. And it's interesting how what I talk to my kids is, wherever you're starting, everybody has this idea of where you want to end up, and you can't get there unless you fall in love with the stuff in between.
That's true.
Everybody wants to be a champion. Everybody wants to win every race. You cannot get there unless you start really enjoying
the road, right? I talk to the kids about that when we're in here, and it's just, especially the ones who are looking at other people when they're swimming, or they're watching next to each other when they're in their lanes, and it's like, that doesn't have anything to do with you. Yes, it does, but ultimately, if you're not focused on what you're doing on a day-to-day, and you're more worried about what they're doing, it's not going to work. It's not going to work the way it could work for you. Well, you deserve it to work if you're working that hard.
And the way we describe it is, like, my most talented kids always knew the agreement between the two of us, and it was, I'm trying to come up with something that could maybe kill you, and you're trying to show me that my set is not up to their standards. It's like I'm trying to come up with a set that has you crawling away from practice. But it's the swimmer's job to show, no, that wasn't the set.
That wasn't.
I got you, coach.
Wow.
And
cool.
those are the kids that show up knowing, and they almost have that look like, what do you got today? And I'm looking
like, you're just
I got it.
I think I got this today.
And then after practice, you go, that wasn't it, coach. And it's like those kids.
That's cool.
Those kids are screaming
cool.
studs.
Yeah.
That's what can make showing up and remember they're training with 2 hours in the morning with me.
Yep.
And almost all of them are going to a 2-hour club practice in the evening.
Yep.
So they're looking at 4 hours. You're looking at 20 to 25 hours in the pool.
Yep.
Like the only way you can show up and continue to do this if there is truly something that interests you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Otherwise, it chews you up, and I've seen that side of it too.
Absolutely. Tell me your day-to-day then. Give me your day-to-day. Obviously, as a high school teacher, coach, you got class and whatnot, but give me your general day-to-day.
My general day is about 10 to 12 hours.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
we're usually at the pool by 7.
Yeah.
We have a 2-hour session. We get out of the pool. We train off campus.
Yep.
So it's about a 15-minute drive. I get to school sometime around 10 a.m.
Okay.
I usually have. I teach 2 geometry classes, and I train with the soccer team. So most days, at least for about 15 years,
Yeah.
I had no off periods.
Yeah.
So it is some mixture of swim, geometry, soccer. Now there's some days that for the last several years, we've actually committed 2 days a week that we don't get in the pool, we go straight to the weight room.
Nice.
We've
talked about this before.
Yeah, and you've actually helped me design those weight training situations just because swimmers don't need to be doing what football players need to be doing.
Yeah.
They're, I think it's easy for a swimmer to injure themselves in that environment if they're not smart and doing things the right way. We don't need to be doing squats with 250 pounds. I won't even let them put any weight on the bar. Actually, we just do high rep stuff with their legs. But those days when we're in the weight room, that usually we start at 7. That goes to about 8:15. I'm usually doing 3 geometry classes those days and 1 soccer day. So if I I usually get there at 6:30 and I stay to tutor afterwards. I'm leaving around 5:30. So I think that's 11 hours.
Yeah, it's 11 hours. Yeah.
So
and then traffic on the way out home when you're done. That's a that's a heck of a day, dude.
Yeah, and it takes my wife Molly always kind of teases me a little just because it takes 2 weeks for my body to get back in teaching shape because those first 2 weeks beat you down. But I mean, I'm getting to do very different stuff every day. It's absolutely not boring.
Yeah, sure. Or just exactly. So within 12, you're doing 4 different kind of patterns across the day. Like that's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's awesome. Give me a sense of like, what is your coaching philosophy, if you will? Give me kind of a rundown on, what your first practice, new semester, new year, new team. How do you start? What do you start with? What's the overarching kind of like? 3 things. I can give you 3 things about this place, right? I can give you 3 things about like what the goal, what the focus is of this program in here for the people who come in here, right? So give me kind of that kind of vibe.
We spend about a week in the classroom before I will ever let them begin training.
Okay.
So we talk about expectations, what the season's going to be like. We do goal setting, but simple things that we kind of have I think it's 4 or 5 just basic things that we would expect out of everybody every day.
Yep.
First one is, and I stole a little bit of this from Costco.
No way.
And I believe their first thing at Costco is be here.
Yeah.
And so ours is show up.
Yeah.
I can't. None of this is ever going to be possible if you don't show up.
If not,
Number 2, show up on time.
Yeah.
So the kids absolutely know that simple thing is early is on time. I tell them whatever I tell you to be at, me and my assistant coach, our goal is to beat you by 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And in 22 years, I've not been late to a practice.
Wow.
Now I have not hit my goal of being 30 minutes early, but even on my worst day,
You're
if
still
everything goes horrible and I'm 25 minutes off my time, I'm still 5 minutes early to practice.
Yep.
So I tell them, early is on time is late,
Yeah.
and late usually it shows some sort of disrespect of what they're doing or trying to do.
Yeah.
Or they're just having the worst day of their life, and that happens too.
That happens too. Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
But show up on time, be a good teammate. I think you don't have to be very good at your sport to be a good teammate.
I would agree. I agree with that.
And I think that's a basic thing that you should expect at anything you commit to.
Yeah.
Show up and be some sort of having a positive attitude it comes down to a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Choose your attitude. If you don't choose a bad attitude,
Correct.
just understand that's your choice.
Yep, absolutely. I wouldn't be in business if I chose to have that attitude every day with people.
Yeah, and
There's no way.
sometimes it's easy,
Yeah.
and sometimes we make that. Even I make that mistake of getting into the bad attitude range, and you just it's something you got to work at.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing that I ask of them is to do their best.
Yeah.
And again, that you don't have to be our best athlete to do your best, and that's you should be trying to improve yourself, whatever it is that you're doing at. I'm a firm believer that you're either getting better or you're getting worse. I don't believe there's anything there's no such thing as maintenance.
Gotcha.
You can't maintain what you're doing. You're either getting better
Interesting.
or you're getting worse.
Interesting.
And each day, you got to make that choice. Am I getting better today, or did I get worse today?
Why? How is that? Where does that come from? Like growing up, parents, like overall.
No, I don't. So my mother she was the work ethic. She back in she found out a long way into what she was doing that she had dyslexia. But didn't figure that she was already into nursing.
Already into a career.
And she again didn't like school because studying and reading was tough.
Hard. Yeah, absolutely.
And even when she used to tell me when she went to nursing, they'd be like, here's the procedures, and she said she would always say, will you just show me? If you'll show me how to do this right, I can do it right every time.
Wow.
And I really actually became what I consider a monkey see, monkey do. If you'll just show me how to do it. I learned most of everything I did. I didn't have dyslexia, but I always wanted who was the best athlete. I want to watch what that person's doing, and that's what I'm going to do. Because I didn't, my coaches would always and it didn't mesh with the way I was learning. Can I just see somebody do it right, and then I got it.
Visual and kinesthetic learner, not an auditory. That's crazy. Yeah.
And so
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know where I was going with that.
No, man, I get it.
I think you said where does
that come from? Where does that, like, you're either getting better or you're getting worse kind of
and so I think I think I actually got it from a speech I once watched, and I just kind of said, you know what, I think you're right, is we can't just, and it really, for me, it was from coaching us, if I don't go to some clinics and find something, if I can't find something new to add into what I'm doing, I find I try and do last year's stuff and I don't do it as well. And I have to have something new. It's like, I always, also when I go play golf horribly. If I don't have something specific that I'm working on my swing, I play horrible. I have to have
at least something.
Here's my purpose and process. And actually, President Hansen talked about that on Wednesdays. Because you ever get on a block and just feel like you're about to throw up everywhere, and my whole team raised their hand, and because it's me too, because that anxiety. Some people think that's your body telling you about something bad or whatever. He goes, no, it just means that this is important to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he goes, the way I handled it every time is I just had to know what did I want to do with my first 3 strokes.
Interesting.
And I had to be focused on the process, not whether this is going to be a good race or not.
Yeah.
That was out of my control. Really.
Just refine it down to like these smaller details that you know you can.
And he said if I
and
dove
focus
in,
on.
I was going to hold that pull out for so many seconds, and I wanted to make sure I could feel that first kick. If I could feel what I wanted to feel in my process, oh, my confidence just went through the roof, and I just basically said, all right, I'm gonna smoke everybody now.
Yeah.
That's how he presented it. Is
He went from really, really global to like really, really local.
I had to have that small specific thing that I could have that inside of a race. That whole feedback of there it is. I did what I was set out to do.
And then it's just another 50 or 100 or whatever it is, right?
And
it brings it smaller. It brings it much more under your control at that point, because probably everything else he's thinking about when he gets up there in the first place that causes that is something that's beyond him.
Well, just imagine being at the Olympics.
Trials, the Olympic,
Well, he said the most difficult he's ever been to is Olympic trials.
Yeah.
He says that's way harder than Olympics or World Championships. Olympic trials, when two people are going.
Yeah, only two. Yeah.
And when he was 18, he got third in the 100 breaststroke by 1/100th, and he got third in the 200 by 1/100th.
God bless.
And he said he's never been more upset when Rowdy Gaines came up to him and said, "How's it feel to miss the Olympics by the smallest margin?"
Yeah. Thanks, Rowdy. I wasn't sure until you just said that out loud. Oh my God. Well, give me some, I don't know, some positive stories, some coaching stories where, you know, kids were struggling, either classroom, or in the water, where, like, you know, they brought something to you, you saw something and was able to fix it, was able to come around with it. How did your philosophy kind of resolve that for them?
Well, and I don't know if it was my philosophy, but so we talk a lot about the kids who've been through the program. We keep records for everything, training records, competition records, because I want my kids to say, okay, I want to go after those records.
Yeah.
And so we have this kid we talk a lot about on our team. His name's Thomas Schomper. He's actually swimming at A&M right now.
Okay.
But Tommy Schomper was a talented kid at a young age. I had coached his two older siblings. But the year before he was going to be a freshman in high school, he was basically done with the sport. He was a tiny kid, not tall, very skinny.
Yeah.
And by the time he hit about 10, 11 years old, everybody hit growth spurts.
Got it.
And he went from being a really good swimmer to now all these kids that weren't, that he could always whoop, were whooping him.
Smoking him, yeah.
And that did not sit well with his mentality. Was basically wanted to quit. Mom brings him to my little summer league team.
Yeah.
And says, I don't know if you can do anything. I think he says he's done with swimming. And I'm talking to him on the deck, and he can't stop crying.
Mm.
He's just sitting there. He's at a pool, and he's just got tears in his eyes. And I was like, I just want you to get in the pool. You don't have to win anything. I just want you to make it through practice. And our goal ended up being, by the end of the summer, was I asked him, what's your best 100 free time? And he said 59 seconds, which is, it's not blowing it out of the water.
Sure.
He said, well, our goal by the end of the summer is to break a minute again. That's all we want to do.
Yeah.
He said, okay. And by the end of the summer, the very last swim meet, I think he went in 58 seconds. He broke a minute. And he joined our high school team as a freshman. And by his senior year, he was breaking 50 seconds in the 100 back and the 100 fly, which is that's posting a time.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was anything. I just gave him a welcoming place to go train, and he had one other great thing that happened to him, and the great thing that happened to him was this other really great kid named Cameron Katzman, who was all world. He was in the state meet 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And 6'2", just
Adonis.
Adonis.
Yeah.
And Tommy just made it very simple on himself and chased Cameron for 3 straight years.
Got it. He had a rabbit.
He did,
Yeah.
and Cameron was the nicest guy, and he would say, Tom, let's go again.
Mm-hmm.
Come
That's
on,
cool.
I know you're dying, but let's go one more. Coach said we're doing 10.
Yeah.
And so Tommy just chased Cameron for 3 years until he finally started passing Cameron.
Yeah.
And he ended up in a place where we didn't have any pressure for Tommy. It was It was just a place that it was important for me. I think the one thing I did is, Tommy, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
You're part of our family. You're going to be loved, and that's all you need to know.
That's cool.
The rest of it, and this is again, I steal this quote from Eddie Reese. If you're here for 4 years, Tommy, and you don't get to be a great swimmer, but you become a great man, we win.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to be
absolutely
a great swimmer. We need you to grow up, be a great human being. Let's be a great person. Let's go be a professional in something.
Sure.
I don't care if it's repairing AC.
Yeah.
One of my first swimmers is a great AC repairman
Yeah.
that I call all the time. So I think we just gave him a place to go have a home and the opportunity to train.
Yeah.
And he took care of the rest. I will tell you, there is a secret ingredient,
mm-hmm.
but it's never in the coach. It's
Yeah.
always in the kid.
Yeah.
The kid has to have the secret ingredient. It's just that desire.
Yeah.
There's no magic potion that makes desire. If the kid wants it, and that's why swimming, I will tell you, is better than soccer. If the kid wants it bad enough, they can have it.
Yeah.
I've had kids that started out as freshmen I put them on the team as a gift. I still remember this one girl, Ashlyn Seifert.
Mm-hmm.
She was the slowest swimmer I had ever put on a team. She could not make qualifying times for really any of our meets the first 2 years. She just got her butt handed to her every day for years, going last in our slowest lane.
Yeah.
And she would never give up. And the only reason I put her on the team because she swam on my summer league, and I knew that she would never give up.
Yeah.
And so I just kept. I was like, all right, you can have a spot, but you can't give up. And it didn't matter. She showed up the next day. What are we doing? All right, we're doing this. And she would get her butt whooped. And her senior year, she made an A relay for our championship, going 56 in the 100 free. I mean,
crazy.
But it was.
She just kept coming, and she
again,
showed up.
It would have been so easy to quit. Yeah, it would have been so easy to say, "This is too much. I'm getting I'm getting killed every day."
Yeah.
And
wow,
that's why swimming.
Yeah.
Is because soccer, you can't do that.
No, that's fair.
You have to have some. You could put everything I've seen kids put everything they have into soccer for 4 years, and you're still not very good.
Yeah, no, it's true. No, it's fair. It's fair. It's very fair. So let's wrap it up with tips for parents, new parents, established parents who have swimmers or athletes of any kind, right? Like, as a coach with the broad level of experience that you have, like, give them something to take away from this, is, kind of that sterling point of, how can they help their kids, middle school, especially high school, especially, manage a sport, manage class, set goals for their future. What would you say to them? I mean, obviously you've got 2 kids of your own. Yeah. One's about to graduate.
Yeah, and it's
crazy. So
it's interesting. And it can be, you see parents that put their kids in certain sports and they want it so bad, but they have to understand, if your kid doesn't want it, so that there's going to be very frustrating for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting to deal with those parents that are more competitive than their kids, and that could be, man, that's a tough relationship for all 3 parts. There. The biggest thing for me, and then I ask for parents, usually the kid is going to push themselves hard no matter what. Mm-hmm. The best thing a parent can do is just remind them that they love them, they're important, feed them, make sure they're eating, try and get them sleep, and swimmers are the kind of people that they're gonna stay up till 1 a.m. doing their advanced world history essay, and then they're gonna go to some practice, and there'll be lots of sacrifices if you want to be successful really at anything.
True.
And swimming's no different. But man, the only thing that I think I've ever figured out along the way that I can tell you is always true is that, number one, siblings are going to be different.
Yeah. Very much so.
And it's easy to and it's almost always going to be two ends of the spectrum. My son and my daughter. My son is 18 going on 8, and my daughter's 11 going on 25. And they're just polar opposites. Most siblings are going to be that way. So to try and say, here's how you're gonna help your kid the best, I would recommend listening to your kids, and if they're not talking, get them talking.
Ask questions.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And some of these kids, and I have a couple right now that not everything's going well in their life, and it can be tough because I even have a parent that's telling me they're worried about their kid, and that their kid won't talk to them, and then you try and talk and get it from a different angle, and it's important to get them talking. And then what I ended up telling this kid is, or what I'll tell most kids is, you don't have to talk to me, but you better have someone that you do talk to. And if you don't, you're headed for a car wreck. You're gonna end up in a place you don't want to be, and that's over the last 20-25 years. I mean, yes, there's been a lot of highs, but you get to see a lot of the lows. Kids that end up in dark places and trying to find them help and assistance, and I think it's big to make sure that they're talking.
Talk
talk real to your kids.
That's exactly what I would tell the people that work for me. Is that when we're in our one-on-one situations, and we want everybody to be comfortable in this room, and if they're not conversing or having a conversation, or there's not talking going on, it's on us to ask questions to then even just get one-word answers. And obviously, 45-minute session goes by, and I've asked 10 questions and I've gotten 10 one-word answers. That's great. Next time I see that person, I'll do it again, and maybe I'll get 3-word answers next time. And it just opens up the door gradually to where maybe that next, 8 sessions in, that kid comes back in and asks me how my day was, and all of a sudden now it's gone the other way, right? So you've got to keep talking.
And there's some kids that are great at it, and there's some kids that are really, really lacking in that ability to converse, and there's some kids that are not great at making friends, and those are always the real tough ones. That, especially swimming, is you can get through a lot of swimming without having to talk to too many people. Correct. And so, like on our team, every practice, part of our warm-up involves some sort of minutes of kicking that has 0 distance requirements. But everybody on our team knows that you're not allowed to kick alone. I can't make you talk to the person next to you, but I can make you kick next to another person.
And at least be somewhat in a social environment of some sort, right?
I'm going to probably give you 8 minutes. Where I don't care if you do 50 yards in 8 minutes. But let's get our heads out of the water. Let's go and talk to somebody.
For that reason.
And because we're going to spend a lot of times with our face in the water. And so every day there needs to be some time where you just go talk.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Dude, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a blast, dude. It's been a blast. Definitely. Thanks, man. Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Take care.